Said that the government is spending up to 70% of its revenue to pay off debt inherited from retired President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration. The Deputy President's revelation that was also optimistic that the economic situation is recovering comes as the government delays payments of salaries for state and public officers to avoid a default on loans due to reduced revenues. The National Council of Churches has called for a freeze on employment in the public service until the debts are paid.
On a week, the government has laid bare the country's economic situation. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua's revelation that the government is forking out 70% of its revenues to pay debt inherited from retired President Uhuru Kenyatta's regime seems to confirm why the government is struggling to pay public officer salaries amid reduced revenues.
The president has worked very hard. He inherited a 9.6 trillion public debt. All the money that we collect, 70% of that amount goes to pay public debt. President William Ruto did not acquire those debts. He has found them, and they have to be paid because they are debts that belong to the Republic of Kenya.
Gachagua, who spoke during the 92nd Kenya Medical Training College graduation ceremony at Kasarani Stadium, however, laid fears the country's economy is on its deathbed, assuring Kenyans of recovery in coming months.
The patient has put on weight and is responding well to treatment. And in the next several months, the patient will leave hospital, will be discharged to go home and be attending clinic once in a month.
The country's debt, now at 10.2 trillion shillings, has left the government with few options due to fear of defaults, especially on the 305 billion shillings Eurobond due in June next year. According to the National Treasury, revenues for September 2023 stood at 2.4 trillion shillings, meaning the country is paying 1.6 trillion shillings, which is 70%.
I can tell you, we are even having trouble with salaries. We are clearing salaries with arrears. Okay? You know, just imagine that. The first thing we can do, and you are familiar with this story, is that we cannot default on external debt because our credibility is going to be ruined. It takes the first charge.
The National Council of Churches, NCCK, now wants the government to freeze employment in the public service until all the debts are settled, while criticizing National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Professor Njuguna Ndung'u for saying the country is broke despite the introduction of new taxes.
So we must live within our means, and we must stop the theft, and we must all work together. This is not a responsibility of National Treasury, it's a responsibility of every Kenyan to save our country and to make sure that the little money that we are raising through taxes does not end up in pockets of a few.
Despite the executive's promise of better days ahead, the Commission for Revenue Allocation (CRA) has dampened the projections, saying reduced revenues on tax has seen KRA miss its targets in the first quarter of the year by 72 billion shillings, painting a grim picture of the economy. Apul Kamau, TV 47.